T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Trap Talk, Reptile Network, coolest reptile network in the world, episode 496. All in the Tree Tuesdays. David Brahms of the Reptile Perch. It's going down tonight, ladies and gentlemen. What is good? I'm your boy MJ. Welcome back. Or if this is your first time, what is good? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, select all. You'll be reminded of every single podcast that is released under this network. You can listen to any episode under all the major audio platforms as well. There's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout. So, of course, wherever you listen to Trap Talk Reptile Network, thank you so much. Drop a comment, give me some feedback. Really means a lot. And yeah, just thank you for all the love and support. If you're looking for exclusive content, if you want to get more out of what you see at each episode, get more behind the scenes, then look no further than clicking on the very first link in the description below and joining the Trap Talk Patreon family. As soon as you join the Patreon family, you get connected to a Discord. Then also you get connected to an amazing Instagram group chat, nonstop networking, amazing times. Thank you to all my Patreon members. You guys are my heart. Appreciate all the growth, all the amazing stuff happening within the family. Shout out to all the early birds. I want to get straight to the early birds tonight. Lupe, right now, going for Rookie of the Year. I'm not even joking. He's killing it in the game. Trap Talk Patreon member. Follow his work on Instagram, Space City Chondros. He's got 3 heavy clutches under his belt. Proud of this guy, man. One of the most humble, coolest guys in the chondro game, up and coming right now. So again, Lupe, Space City Chondros, appreciate you, Doc, for tapping in. All City Serpents, homie James B in the building, Trap Talk Patreon member all day every day. Cody from Morph Kings in the building, Trap Talk Patreon member all day every day. The homie Big Mike, 1776 Exotics, Trap Talk Patreon member all day every day. Orange County Chondros, homie Robert, Trap Talk Patreon member all day every day. Appreciate you, Jaffe. What is good? Appreciate the homie Jaffe, my player from Canada. What is going on, everyone? Saying what up to all of us. And he says the main man he gets all his purchase from, David. That's right. Which brings me to tonight's sponsors. You know, I'm very thankful for tonight's sponsors. One of them being Mark Hager from Texas Chondros, doing amazing work by his chondros and by other Texas chondro keepers. Puts a lot of the Texas chondro keepers on the map just by posting amazing work and whatnot. But also he himself has amazing projects going down. So I highly suggest following this guy if you're not already. More than likely you already are. But please check him out if you haven't. Mark Hager from Texas Chondros. You could also go to You could also go to TexasChondros.com or just head over to his Instagram, like I was saying. And yeah, appreciate Mark for all the hard work he puts into the not only the chondro community, but all around the reptile world. Really awesome guy. And of course, tonight's man of the hour, which is David Brahms from the Reptile Perch, really doing awesome things and has been doing awesome things with these PVC designed perches for arboreal species. And again, I believe almost a quote unquote a ground reptile, like, you know, a ball python or whatever, will still use a perch. I've seen it. So just saying, get your purchase from someone who's been doing it right. And the man, Reptile Perch at thereptileperch.com. And also give him a follow on Instagram as well, because other than him designing perches, he's killing it right now in the chondro game. So we're going to have lots to discuss with David Brahms and his success with the Green Tree Pythons. I know it didn't come easy. He's been around. From what I remember, I've seen David's name in the Facebook groups for a few years. Okay, so we'll get down to the actual, the nitty and gritty as far as what he's been putting in to get to the success with the Green Tree Pythons. And of course, tonight, my amazing co-host, Marshall Mendez in the building. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's happening?
Cheers to you. Another beautiful Tuesday night.
Yeah, cheers.
Glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
You're not drinking?
Always fun.
No Millers? There's no
Oh,
beverage?
yes, of course. Okay. I like to wait till the guest comes on sometimes to crack them, so I don't drink them too fast.
Yeah, dude, awesome. Seeing updates. I know we were talking during sound check about your albino Green Tree Python giving you its first shed. So I know you feel happy about that because they ate right after that, right?
It did, yeah. So the second meal after a second, I guess it was the second meal plus 2 assist feeds. Finally went into a shed, had its first shed, and then I tried to feed it. As soon as I got home from work, it had shed, and tried to feed him pretty much immediately, and it took like a minute.
How did the shed look? Did it look like kind of like tough at all, or did it just look like any normal shed?
Well, I keep them on water right now, so all the sheds are just, they're just all real slimy. Have you ever kept neonates over water? You know how they shed. I mean, it just gets all wet, saturated, so it's really, you can't really tell anything from it. But
yeah. I always heard that first shed's important. Like, it's like, as far as it coming off, like it being a good shed, because otherwise, I heard it can get sticky. Those
sure.
kind of sheds are difficult to deal with, on a neonate.
Yeah, just because the snake's so small, you don't want it to get stuck, because then you can't really help it, without potentially injuring it. So,
yeah. All right.
So anyway, yeah, that was big. Pretty psyched about it.
Super stoked for you. And the other clutch mates are well ahead, right? As far as meals, they have more like 5 or 6 meals now.
Yeah, they're like 3 meals ahead. So, nothing too. I've already moved them up to like large size pinks instead of just the red hots,
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, here now that they're all primed up and going, I can feed them in, a couple minutes. I'll start feeding them maybe every 5 days instead of every 7 days, just because I could do it quickly, and then they'll really start putting on some size. I like to get them on fuzzies as quickly as I can.
Wow.
And then maybe slow.
You start with 7. You start with 7 and go down to 5.
I do, yeah. I mean, 7 mainly, or 7 or more until they're eating well. Just because I don't have time to sit there and screw with them all for. I'll feed the ones that once they start eating, and they're eating, sight feeding. I'll feed them every 5 days. Sometimes even less than that if I do small meals. Yeah. Until they get to the fuzzy size, and then once they start taking fuzzies, I'll cut them back to every 7 to 10 days.
Well, how many meals a week is the mayor feeding this guy, you think? I don't know. Alex Warren, what's good, buddy?
What's up, Alex?
That was a good intro. I like that.
Bill is doing mayor things, and I appreciate you filling in for him as always. Good to have you here, buddy. How you been?
Yeah, good to be here. Been good. Just a chill day, taking care of snakes. Just excited for tonight.
Bill came home and told me some exciting news from one of the most heaviest clutches that he's had this year. Do you want to kind of give us an update on that clutch?
Yeah, the freight train outbreak clutch. The whole shed had great sheds, and 7 out of 7 ate their first meal, no problem.
Nice.
And not only that, all 25 neos that he's hatched this year have all eaten without a problem on their first try. So
all right, that's huge.
Hell yeah,
it is huge. It's very good. It's,
any different approach, or is it just the same old as like old business?
Same thing he always does. Just the chick down with a tiny little red hot pink, and just gets it done.
Yeah. All right. Well, good shit. Appreciate that. David Brahms, man, someone who's having quite some success this year so far with the CHONDROS.
Yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah, Marshall, you've been around the block for a while. So David Brahms, from what you know, also his name's been around for a minute, right?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I've known him. I mean, I say known him. I've known forums and things like that for quite a while. I don't remember exactly when, but he's definitely been around.
Yeah, I would say 27. Go ahead, Marshall.
I was just gonna say, and of course now with the perches, that's become kind of like the standard for arboreals.
Yeah. And I came across his work first before I even knew he was the man behind the perches. But once you start paying attention to seeing, what can I use for perches, or what is it that is best or suitable? David hit Reptile perch, which was back then specialty design. It wasn't the
right.
Reptile. It was a different name. But I mind you, I came in with low pockets, man. I didn't have a lot of money, and I'll never forget like thinking how amazing a freaking cup holder would be to screw in, like how much because I dealt with them being knocked over all the time and whatnot. But then like I said, I could barely afford the little PVC couplers that they sold at Home Depot. You know what I mean? But all I could think about is like someday, now look, it's all behind me now. This is all, by the way, all David Brahms right here. This is all the Reptile Perch. These PVC enclosure, PVC perches with the cup holders that actually screw onto the PVC perch, which I think is game changing because we all know some of these things be lazy. So
he's got so many different designs, and I mean, he's even worked with me on a couple things for making custom stuff for my like Amazon tree boas and for these little perch holders that I use for my vision cages. He made those for me. So yeah, man, dude knows what's going on. He's a sharp guy. Looking forward to talking to him.
Yep. And you know who he is, obviously, Alex. We briefly talked, and because of Bill, a bunch of heavy hitters who associate themselves with Dave, you definitely somebody forced to be reckoned with, right?
Yeah, for sure. Bill has several of his perches, and correct me if I'm wrong, he also makes the little neonate box, right?
Yeah.
Like a rack, but it's just one hub.
Yep, that's the one Gary showed off on his channel.
Yeah, that one. So that's just a straight up genius idea. If you're just looking to buy one or two chondros, that's the perfect thing for that. So, and it comes with like the perch and a little hook and everything. So
yeah,
looking forward to it.
And with a man like David from I've only known him personally for a couple years now, but he has ideas up his sleeve. But for him being like already what he's been doing for years, and other there's other. I don't want to be mean, but goddamn wannabe perch companies out there. But this guy's been doing it, man. And I know he has stuff up his sleeve. So let's see what we can get out of him tonight. How about that? I don't know about you, but I'm ready to bring him on. Are you guys down or what?
Yep, sounds
ready.
Good.
All right, guys, do what you got to do to get your mind right. Do what you got to do to stay hydrated. Episode 496. David Brahms, the Reptile Perch, coming at you right now. Let's go.
Good.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes,
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up, rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up, rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up, rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up.
And we're live with David Brahms from the Reptile Perch. What's up, David?
What's going on, guys?
Good to have you
David,
back.
what's up?
Hey, Marshall. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
Alex, nice to meet you.
You too.
Oh, this is your first time actually meeting him, huh, David? Alex
It
Warren?
is, yeah.
Yeah. Bright future. Bright future this guy has. Alex
That's what I
Warren.
hear.
Yeah, definitely. But man, David, you quite the year so far, huh? How do you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, not too
What are you
bad.
on, like 5 clutches now?
5. One of them was kind of a dud clutch, but 5, yeah.
Okay, still counts.
Yep.
Yeah. And refresh
How
my
many
memory.
Neos? Yeah, give us some details.
Yeah, my girls, they always drop kind of small clutches. So I think, let's see, one of them was a 9. I got 9 eggs to hatch. The other one, 10. And another one that's 13 that just hatched. And I've got 6 more eggs in the incubator right now.
Nice. And,
Yeah.
and are you getting slugs with those, or just those are the amount of eggs you're getting?
Yeah, it's just the amount of eggs that I get. My females are small. I didn't raise them to be very big, so I generally get about a baker's dozen. That seems to be where they land each year when they produce.
Okay.
Are they big?
Yeah.
Are the eggs big?
I would say they're probably average size. Yeah.
Okay. Because the general consensus is, you know, you'd rather small clutches but big eggs rather than big small eggs.
Yep. Yeah. Like I said, the females that I have aren't huge. I don't weigh them or anything, but if I were to guess, you know, they're definitely below 1,000 grams. And I usually only get about 12 to 13 eggs generally. It's usually in that ballpark. And that's all I've ever really gotten, so I don't have much to compare them to. I think the eggs are average in size, but maybe next time I should probably measure and weigh them just to see how they compare to what other people get.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've never gave 2 shits, but if we're really talking about a smaller female that's giving you less eggs, I think I would want to just, you know, see how big these eggs are comparable to, like, you know, for instance, like Garrick from the House of Blues, who averages like 20 something eggs a clutch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
His eggs, I mean, from what I understand, look pretty big. And even this female does not look, I mean, obviously I know this is in a Cambro tub, but this female looks like she could just be around the 1,000 gram mark, or correct me if I'm wrong. What's the size of this female here? Looks like she's ovulating maybe.
Yeah, she's small. That's the one that I just got 6 eggs from.
Wow.
The very last clutch. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the big size Cambro box though, right? Like the
It is
15 gallon or something. Okay.
Yeah, it's the largest one that they sell.
Yeah, and you, for the most part, breed all your females in Cambro tubs like this, or?
I do.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, Ryan Young also I forget the dimensions. And Ryan, if you're listening, please drop them in the comments. But his cages aren't that big at all. And I know that when you can control temps a lot more, like when you have more control of temps and what's happening with humidity and stuff like that, you have better success. Only because, you know, I have all mines in 3x2x2s, and I always thought, like, you know, wow, are those even big enough? But from what I understand, you don't need, especially for a chondro that isn't even really that active, first and foremost, but you don't need the biggest setup for a green tree python to be successful breeding wise.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a little bit controversial. It depends on, I guess, what your philosophy is on keeping them and how much space that you think you need to provide. I tend to go a little bit smaller, I think, than what most people do. But, you know, I find that, you know, they're comfortable. Everything, you know, all their needs are being met, and I'm getting really good success breeding them, which should be a good indication that they're content. And, you know, I think you can probably breed them in pretty much anything as long as you're giving them everything that they need.
Well, statistically, I've had better luck breeding in Sterilite tubs than this so far.
Yeah.
Statistically. I mean, I know that's hopefully going to change, but I'm just saying, like, you're not wrong there. I mean, it's, you know, it's something that's steady and that is in their means where they feel comfortable, and you don't fuck with it, you know?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I've learned after keeping these guys for a while now is that I think probably one of the things that gets overlooked a lot is just stability.
Yeah.
Don't mess with them much. Don't change things all the time, and just let them ride. And they seem to do a lot better that way.
Yeah, I think you said that, Marshall, like almost kind of neglect them, like or Emerald.
Yeah,
not, you know, but in a sense, like you almost just fucking forget about it, and that's kind of in your best interest in a sense with these, right?
That's always been my philosophy to you know, do as little, you know, obviously there's sometimes you got to take action when there's certain things that are going on, but for the most part, it's been kind of a set it and you know, set it and forget it until you see the animal telling you that it needs something different, or, you know, the behavior changes, something like that. With a female being gravid or male cruising, or, you know, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And so from what it looks like, David, you like to run ambient for all the heat source, or can you explain how you run the heat elements for the chondros, and even when they're gravid and they ovulate and everything?
Yeah. So yeah, I do. I run ambient heat in both the rooms that I have, 82, 83 degrees during the day. I do a slight temperature drop year round, just a couple degrees during the summer months. And then when I'm actively trying to get them to cycle, I'll drop it a couple more degrees. So it's not a huge drop, but it's something.
Right.
And so, yeah, I keep them like that. There's no, I don't have hot spots or anything like that in any of the cages until the females actually become gravid. And then I just use those super simple old school ceramic heat emitters, the 25 waters. And I have a hole cut in the lid of the Cambro with a soffit vent, metal soffit vent screen. And I just let that ceramic heat emitter sit right on there, and it gets the job done.
Okay, so
It's outside the cage, but right on top.
Right on
Yep.
top. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and how much of the top is screen? Is it all of it, or just that portion where the ceramic bulb is giving it basking?
Yeah, just where the bulb is.
Okay.
So
Yep.
so what are you doing for because are you using the Cambro lids as well that
I
come
am.
with them?
Yep.
So how do you have holes for ventilation, or how are you doing that?
Yeah, I drilled holes, in the corners of those Cambro tubs. It's kind of dimpled, the plastic. And I just drill a series of holes in all four corners of the tub to get cross ventilation in there.
Okay.
And then some of them I've actually cut like an access port on one side so I can get in there without having to take the lid off.
Can you see the holes,
Okay.
Marshall? Marshall, can you see the holes?
I mean, I'm looking at it on my phone, so a little bit, but
Okay.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah,
about 5 on each side, and they're
I
just,
see. Yeah, but they're vertical, right?
Right.
Are they vertical?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I've always liked the pictures that I've seen of your setup. It's kind of like the old school, like when I should always remember, like Tony Nikolai's basin website, where
Yeah, I
all the
remember
cages
that.
were totally clear, and you can walk in and like you can see, every animal from every angle. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool look. I like
Always-
that.
Thanks.
yeah, like Ed Moreno's old cages too.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like Ed's.
Oh,
Yeah. Ed, Tony, all the old basin guys used to have basically just clear, clear
Acrylic
everything.
and things,
sides.
right?
Yeah. Sides, front, top.
yeah, and then shout out to Christopher Rice. He's in the building. He has something like I forget the brand that he has, but he has one of his adult northerns that are in a enclosure where it's all see-through on every side. And ideally, I think that's awesome if you could have something
Yeah.
like that where you could see. I mean, because even I thought about it. Like I have a stack of Cambros, and it's like I don't know why I didn't know, because I've been following David for a while, and I kind of noticed that he has this stuff in Cambros. But I'm just like, wow, even these Cambros are like ideally good size for these chondros to do what the hell they got to do in. You know what I mean? But the
Plus,
thing
they're so much easier to clean too than
They
like
are.
a PC cage or a Vision or whatever.
They are, but for me, because where I live, man, they dry out quick. They you don't want too much airflow because you have to be on top of the humidity, like even more from what I've experienced with the Cambros.
Well, you could just put less holes though.
I have no holes whatsoever, and I still have to battle it a little bit. But I guess but then where you live you're in Maine, right, David?
I am. Yep.
And you have great humidity, right? It's not dry at all over there.
No, it's not dry here, but the winter months, it's like
The
everywhere.
winter, yeah.
It's not humid. But the room, I run ambient heat, but I also keep it like really humid in there too. I've got several fish tanks in the room, and I pump the room air through the fish tank, through the bubblers to add the humidity to the room, and it keeps things very jungly in there all the time.
What kind of fish you have in them?
I have some crebensis cichlids in one of them, and then I've got this monster wolffish that I have just as a kind of like a mascot in the room. That
Okay,
me and
nice.
the snakes that don't eat, he gets the food. So
Nice.
yeah.
Now I'm curious. David, because I remember seeing your name a part of Facebook groups for ever since I started in 2017, 2018 is when I started paying attention. But for the record, can you just state how long you've been working with chondros? I know you said on the first episode you were on here, but just right now, how long have you been dabbling with these for now?
Yeah, chondros specifically, I think I got my first one in 2012, if I'm correct.
All right.
And then I just started, collecting them right after that. Within a few years, I just started buying more Clockwork Bushmaster babies. That's pretty much how I built the collection, is all through Bushmaster.
Strictly collecting mentality in the beginning, or was there a certain point after the first or second one where you're like, I want to breed these things? Like, well, I'm curious when that started becoming a thought,
Yeah, no, right from the beginning, I wanted to, build a collection for reproducing them, breeding them.
Right. And then how quickly were you adding animals? Because right now I'm even talking to a few people who are ready to go in, but I'm like, and I don't want to tell someone, oh, you can't buy stuff so quick, because God bless you, do what you want. It's kind of like your story that you want to write. But I also feel like there should be an approach when buying chondros, and just because you have heavy pockets don't mean you should just find whoever has expensive shit and spend money, right? Like, I'm trying to get a good idea on what you did maybe, or what you advise for anyone out there,
Yeah, I think it depends on what your comfort level is. I've had a lot of stuff prior to keeping chondros, and some tricky stuff that was required some some experience to keep, and so I wasn't shy getting into them. So once I got my first one, within the first 3 to 4 years after that, I grabbed most of the animals that I currently have in the collection as adults now.
Yeah. And, your first pairing was what year?
2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. So keep it for 7 years before you even had your first pairing.
Yeah, I wasn't in a rush.
Right.
It was more of just, collecting animals and raising them up, and and then once they finally got to the age where I can start reproducing them, I finally got around to doing it. But it took a few years.
Did you do any of the like, since you mentioned you'd gotten a lot of them from Clockwork and they were Bushmaster reports, I guess. So did you do any type of treating them for parasites or any of that kind of stuff?
I did. Yeah. I have a microscope and everything here, and did all my own fecal floats to see what was going on. And I found stuff every time I looked. So I just did the normal panicure and flagell, that kind of stuff.
Like into a prey item? And then
yeah, no, I think if I recall correctly, no, I just used a syringe and a feeding tube, and just
just orally. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then that stopped at what point?
The treating?
Yeah.
It was quick. I mean, just the standard protocol. You treat them and then you wait. I forget what the time frame is, but it's at least.
And then check
weeks.
Again.
Yep. And so that's what I did. It didn't take anything to clear them out.
Did you ever have any with nematodes on them?
Say that again?
Did you ever have any come in with nematodes on them, like the lumps on the side of their body?
No. Thankfully, none of mine had any of the subcutaneous stuff that migrated. All these babies were still really small. Primarily what I saw was like protozoa that they were dealing with. And there was some, nematodes that I had to treat as well, but I didn't have any that had moved underneath the skin.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll never forget, man. And, I was so freaked out. I wanted to throw it away and pretend I didn't look at what I just saw, but I'll never forget when I was heavily, getting imports and just bringing them in like a motherfucker. Like coming in one time and obviously it looked like some bowel movement, right? Because like back then everything was in Sterilite tubs, so you could see right through it. Not clearly, but you could see what's on the floor. Something's on the floor. And I remember whatever was on the floor, it was moving. And I was like, what could that be? Like, I was like, I know I didn't feed it. Like, and obviously it looks like a shit. So, I'm just wondering as I'm opening the lid, bro, I saw these fucking alien worms that were like, they were like moving like this. Like
nasty.
I was like, Oh shit! And first and foremost, I didn't know what I had. I thought maybe whatever this was is like I can't tell nobody about this. I'll never forget being so scared, bro. So fucking scared. And I remember looking at the snake, thinking like, the snake was perched, like nothing came out of it like that, and I couldn't believe what the fuck that was. I'll just remember like taking up the paper, like shocked, and just like taking it to the trash, and just sitting there like really thinking hard, what the fuck could have that been? And I remember I called the person who sold it to me, and of course he fucking could give me an idea right away. And he's like, oh yeah, that happens, when they come in, blah. And I'm like, motherfucker, I was like, this can never happen to me again. I was like, if I see this one more time, I'm done. Like this, but it was shocking, dude. What was more shocking is that snake is fine, and that snake, it lived through that, and I couldn't believe, like I said, what was moving that came out of this snake shit. You know what I mean? It was like a horror movie for sure.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, it seems like a lot of people don't treat, and they do just fine. The animals can ride it out.
They just shit it out at some point, I guess.
I think most of the stuff they come in with is self-limiting. They generally don't have hookworm or anything that can build up from them defecating in the cages. Most of it is just like roundworm and things like that. That after a while, I don't think it's an issue. I probably could have gone without treating them, but I just did it anyway.
Well, do you think if you bred an import that is riddled with parasites to something that's captive bred, could those parasites spread to the captive bred animals?
I think it depends on what they have for parasites. Some of them certainly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hookworm, I think, is one that can spread directly from the host. And
how does it spread? Like, does it
the eggs? Yeah, they shed eggs that get in the enclosure, and then those can end up. Lizards in particular can get really infested with them because they're crapping all the time in their own cages. So yeah, but we don't generally have to worry about that with green.
And then how does the new snake get it? They come to the snake, or the snake ingests them somehow?
They would ingest them somehow. Yeah, drink or ingest. Yep.
Great. Now my fucking panic went even more through the roof with Mac Dre and Alice, my lace monitors. Bro, every day I'm chipping away at shit in that enclosure. It's disgusting. I can't.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And I can't keep up. Oh yeah, just recently, Mac Dre fucking just AK-47 sprayed the whole back corner. Like, I'm talking the back corner. At this point, it needs to be sprayed down. Like, it is so nasty in my monitor enclosure. It needs a hot water spray down. Like, you got to fucking take a pressure washer, I feel like, at this point. It's disgusting. I don't know what to do other than let them go, which I'm doing.
So I was going to say, I know what to do.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here, man. You're going to live somewhere else. I just want my room to smell normal. But anyways, yeah. So, going back to 2019 here, Dave, obviously you did the slow grow, mentality, which is, I think, ideal. Just a safe bet, in the Green Tree Python game. But how many snakes or how many chondros did you have that year you started pairing, or where were you at collection wise?
I'm going to guess and say it was probably half of what I have now, maybe. I'm probably 12 to 15 animals at that time, I would say.
And now you're closer to 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And how many of those are, like, I mean, are we talking majority of those, or at least half of those being the holdbacks and raise ups that you're keeping, or?
Yep. Yeah, I haven't really brought in a lot of animals, or from anybody really, since I got my original stock. There's just been a few that have trickled in, but generally it's mostly stuff that I've produced now.
And are you trying to keep are all your pairings based, trying to keep locality pure? Or are you doing any designer stuff?
No, I do both. I definitely, like to focus on the Maniquari a little bit, but then I've got a bunch of other stuff that is definitely like mixed designer type projects.
So is that like design? Is there just like, are you just first F1 locality crosses that you've made, or have you purchased any, like, the common or known bloodlines?
No, I haven't. The only known bloodline that I have is from the Prada lineage. So
okay, the Maniquari.
Yep. I got a couple animals, one directly from Rico and then one from Gary. that they're not pure Maniquari, but they're half Prada, and then like my male's half Prada Maniquari and Cyclops, and then I think the one that I got from Rico is it's got Prada Maniquari, and then it's also has Ophiological Services High Yellow and Vinsky and several other things mixed in there as well. But then I bought straight Maniquari from Clockwork and Bushmaster and raised those up. So I guess they're technically F1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have any of your crosses come out looking, different than either of the parents, or you can tell they're definitely not like a wild type?
Yeah, I mean, phenotypically, the pure Maniquari stuff looks, like it should. It's the classic, Maniquari, nice, crisp, sharp diamonds on them. Mostly blacktail, relatively small in size. Everything's pretty standard. The Prada lineage stuff that I have, the offspring look different from the parents in a good way. The amount of blue and the desirable things that you would want to get from those definitely seem to jump up with the Dr. Jones Mako pairing that I've done a few times now. That animal that you're showing there is one of the offspring. And so those definitely have come out with a really high percentage of blue, really pretty.
And those are Prada mutts mixed. I'm gonna call mutts, but you know what I mean. Prada mutts mixed with like, what did you cross them to?
So I crossed those two together. So I had Prada Maniquari on both sides, and then the male was a Cyclops, and then the female, like I was mentioning, has the Ophiological Services and Vinsky stuff in there as well.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Now, how many pure locality clutches are that you've done this year out of the 4? Right, you have 4 or 5 under your belt this year. Remind me.
Yeah, 5 clutches this year, and let's see, 2 out of the 5 are pure Maniquari locality.
And that's going to be a repeat thing for you, right? Like, it's like, why wouldn't you want to keep pure Maniquaris like breeding? Like, that's a pretty goal thing for me myself too.
Yeah, it's definitely something that'll be in the works. Hopefully every year, I'll at least have a couple that I'm going to try and get some eggs from, and then just continue, trying to refine those a little more if I can. And then everything else is just going to be, I guess you would technically call them hybrids, but they're mixes between Biak, Aru, Wamena, as well as Maniquari.
I don't mean to get off topic, but Alex Warren needs to cut the bullshit and just send me Aquaberry already. That's what needs to happen. That way I could just have my dream Maniquari pairing already.
Well, Aquaberry needs to cut the shit and start breeding already.
You paired him up and no luck?
Yeah, I paired him up all last season. Nothing.
He's a male. Yeah.
What's his age, buddy? 3, 4?
He's 3.5 right now, so he's young.
Yeah.
I had a Maniquari male that I got back in like 2013 timeframe, and once they all came of age, I tried year after year to get him to produce, and he just would never do anything. And this year was finally the first year. I think it's been like I don't know 9 years now before I finally got him to do something.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
What is the average year your males usually start breeding for you?
I wait until they're 3 to 4.
Yeah.
I haven't played around with anything younger. I'm sure I could, but most of my stuff was all around the same age anyway when I was raising them up. So that's just how it worked out.
It seems like between 4 and 5 is kind of the sweet spot for them. If you get them to breed at 3, then it's just kind of luck. It's not really much else.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about A&W then?
That's very lucky.
My first clutch, the male was 18 months.
Dude,
wow.
I think it's I don't think it's luck. I think it's about numbers, bro. I mean, you might have good chances if you have young males to work with. But I'm like you. I don't think it needs to be rushed. You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't need to be rushed, but you know, I've tried, I think, 4 males at 3 years old, and I've only ever gotten 1 to breed at 3. You know, others bred at 4 and older. So
I've had zero luck until this year, and because Sock was like, bro, like this male I just sent you, his 2 brothers, I've already sired clutches for me this year, and I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it, and so I was like, well, what do I have to lose? Because I mean, if you do have a well-established eating male and he's around 2 years old, and you have a female, and you know, it doesn't hurt to fucking throw him in there and to see, you know what I mean? Either he's gonna run for the hills or want nothing to do with it, or he's gonna try to pull some pervert maneuvers. We'll see, you know.
I think what I see in my collection anyway is I think it has a lot more to do with compatibility.
Yeah.
You know, once they reach that age where they can, you know, reproduce, you know, they should be good to go. But I think it really depends on which female you match them up with, because that one male, I really wanted him to pair up with this specific female that I have, and I just could never get them to do anything. And I would always end up, you know, swapping in a different male, and of course those would reproduce immediately when, you know, you would introduce them. And then this one male that I could never get to do anything, I tried year after year with this female because I really wanted those 2 to go, and this year I finally just gave up, and I put him in with a different female, and they locked up immediately. So it's just there's some weird thing there that I don't know what it is that they're keying in on to decide whether or not they're a good match or not, but it seems like there's something there that I don't quite understand. But once you get, you know, the two animals that are compatible, they seem like there's nothing that's going to hold them back.
Yeah, but have you ever had 2 animals compatible, but then nothing's happened? They just, you know, you get locks after locks after locks, but nothing?
No, I haven't. Not in my collection.
Bastard. I have like this amazing pure Biak pairing that everyone tells me, oh my God, if this goes, that's amazing. But they've been locking and doing the deeds since November, bro. And like this guy, I put him with other girls and he does not give 2 shits, but I put him with this girl and he loves her. Like they're it's kind of weird, but I kind of need something from it at this point, you know?
Yeah.
So now that being said, I'm thinking, man, this is why I need an ultrasound to actually see what the fuck's going on with this chick, to see if she's even building. Do you do ultrasounds at all? Or you just all using the eyes, Dave?
Yeah, I was going to get an ultrasound at one point, but then I decided not to. It would probably be handy just to get a little more visibility as to what's going on sometimes.
Yeah.
But I do pretty much everything by their behaviors and whatever other cues that they show you.
In your season, like you have a season, right? Is there a point of time of the year where you pull every male and nothing's paired?
Yeah, generally, you know, I start introductions in October, and I will keep them together until I get an ovulation. You know, that's generally going to happen sometime. You know, if everything's going to go well, it seems like January, February timeframe is when you start seeing the ovulations, and then at that point, that's when I'll separate them. If I don't get an ovulation, yeah, I'll keep them together until we start, you know, getting well into spring. And if it really seems like there's nothing going on, I'll just pull them at that point.
And you do that.
Are you doing?
Go ahead, Marshall.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, are you doing any food cycling or strictly temperature cycling?
Yeah, I do a shotgun approach. So I definitely do a feed cycling. So I'll fast the girls in the summer here. You know,
like for how long?
Like, just for a few months. You know, I
like
would
zero
say,
food.
Yeah, zero food. So like mid-June, July, August, and you know, I fluctuate each year, but it's generally in that time frame. So probably July through September is when I'll withhold food from the females. The males, I'll keep an eye on them and I'll throw them a meal periodically just to make sure that they're not, you know, losing too much weight. And then I'll you know, throw them together in, you know, roughly October timeframe, and I'll start ramping up the food offerings to the females at that time. but I also will increase the nighttime temperature drop in that same time frame. And then also I've got exterior windows, and I get a natural light cycle here that's pretty dramatic.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
mean, even though they don't get that in the wild, they get it here, and I don't know if it contributes to it or not, but basically all my animals are getting multiple inputs on cycling. It's not just one type.
Right.
Because up where you are, like I bet, like what the peak of winter, you probably gets dark at like what, like 4 o'clock or something.
Yeah,
4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Early.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they probably have like what, a 7 or 8 hour window of daylight.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, yep. It's not a lot. Yep.
And from what I've heard too, man, like even in the wild, like they're not out in the light a lot. Like period. You know, from what I've been hearing, they stay in the canopies and they're always shaded for the most part because they don't want to be exposed. I'm sure there's times where the sun's hitting them, but you know, and I think they tolerate this because they feel safe at this point. But you know, I don't like Ed. You know, to bring up Ed Marino, even though it's emerald trees, the emerald tree boa, the Amazon tree basin and whatnot. But you know, he's in a basement. You know, and I know other people who have plenty of success breeding these in basements or in places where the only light that's on is when they turn on the light in the room, and that's about it. You know, for the most part, it stays pretty dark in there. You know.
Yep.
So, you know, and I think Gary's also said too that all sources of cycling, if you could use that to your advantage, it's definitely going to help for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts. I think, you know, the more you can do, the better with these guys.
Now, you know, kind of going back to you not giving any food, by sticking to that, that's what kind of makes your animals kind of have to cycle almost at the same time of year, right? By sticking to that temperature, I'm sorry, that food cycling, correct?
Yeah, for the most part. I've got one female that doesn't seem to follow the same routine as everybody, even though I subject them to the same stuff. But by and large, they're all on the same cycle because of the way I do it.
So what are you going to do about that female? Because I feel like I have the same case. I got females that I've already noticed that January, they're going to ovulate and do their thing. But I have a feeling that I got a few other girls that are kind of like further off or further ahead. You know what I mean? Or, So what are you going to do about that?
So yeah, the dark horse is the one that I'm talking about. So I got a clutch from her back in, I think it was 2019. And I've been trying to get her to produce again since then. And this is the first year that I've been able to do it. And she also went later that first time than all the other girls did. So she definitely wants something different. And I was starting this year doing the exact same thing that I've always done, except this time, instead of like giving her, continuing like the heavy feed cycling, I noticed she was starting to pack on more weight than I would like to have. So I basically cut food off again, stopped feeding, and just kind of let it ride for a while. And but I still maintain like the nighttime temperature drops, and obviously the light cycle was there too. But I stopped feeding, and for whatever reason, that seemed to kind of get things lined up for her again this year, and I was able to get eggs from her. And I don't know if it's because, you know, she was able to drop down to an appropriate weight where, you know, it was good for her to be able to reproduce, but definitely making that change seemed to make a difference.
So when did she drop her clutch? What
On Mother's Day this year.
Oh wow. Okay, cool.
Yep.
She gave you how many eggs?
Just 6.
And those haven't hatched. So that's your 5th clutch of the year.
Yep.
So she went last. So that makes sense.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So that being said, now that you kind of figured out her cycle, when do you feel like it's necessary to pair Dark Horse again?
Well, it's going to depend on how she looks weight-wise. She really, because it was such a small clutch, you wouldn't have guessed that she laid eggs this year. Nothing like what a lot of the other ones look like. She doesn't look wasted.
Right.
So I would feel comfortable pairing her again this upcoming season. I'll probably try it again.
Right. So like that being said, like if the weight looks great, you know, obviously you don't need to pair her as soon as the other ones, right? Or do you feel like it's just safe to?
Yeah, I think it's safe to. You know, I don't know when the window is for her, and that I guess that's where an ultrasound would really come in handy.
Yeah.
But you know, it doesn't seem to bother them when I've got them together for a few months on end. So I'm probably just going to do the same thing that I did this year and play the long game with her. I may introduce them later just to see, but you know, I didn't see any negatives to doing it early. It just took longer for her to finally reach that point where she ovulated.
Marshall, how far apart are your? I mean, what's the furthest apart your chondro girls have gone from each other as far as like in the year?
I'd have to look. The last, like, I don't know, the last in recent memory, they all go early. So there's my first things to go. Similar to David, you know, but I maybe pair a little bit later. I maybe don't pair until November, December, but you know, I usually see ovulations January, February, and then usually babies by March or April. But sometimes into May.
You do pair all year round though, right? Like if you have stuff that you
not really.
Oh, you don't?
No,
Okay.
not really. Unless I see a male that's you know, cruising around. Although this time of year they're likely cruising around because they're hungry.
Right.
So, but you know, for the most part, I've always bred just in the wintertime. Paired stuff up in the late fall, and you know, they breed throughout the fall and winter, and then lay eggs in the late winter, early spring. And I'd have to go back and look at my record and see like what the latest. I've probably had clutches in August, September, but it's been a long time since that's happened.
Alex, I think you and I are in the same stages of trying to figure out some female cycles, right? So, and I know that we are both down to pair throughout the year, but do you think it might be smart for us to maybe start cutting shit off and basically forcing them into cycles if we can't figure some out? Or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of stopped pairing throughout the year. You know, I have a female right now that she didn't go for me this winter, and I'm just not going to pair her up again until the fall. Probably I'm just going to give her, you know, the next 4 or 5 months off. I don't know. I mean, maybe she would go in the summer. I'm not sure. You know, if she doesn't go again this next fall, then I might pair her up throughout the year, see if that happens. But I had a question for Dave.
Sure.
How many pairings did you have? Because if you got 5 clutches, I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, I think I did 6 pairings.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So almost 100%.
Yep.
And what was the one that didn't go for you?
It was a repeat that I got eggs from her last year, and I just figured I would try it. And there was a lot of breeding activity, but I don't think she had quite enough weight on her where she felt like she could go to the distance. So she just never went to the point where she ovulated.
Wow. Okay. And so, go ahead, Marshall.
Right, just are you doing like one male to one female, or are you rotating your males, or
yeah,
or what?
Generally I do one male to one female.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And so also was the 6 pairs that you went after this year all the pairings you had, or could have done more if you wanted to?
No, I probably could have done more, but I didn't want to overload myself too much.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, I want to. Obviously, you're in the thick of it now, right? So
Yep.
I'm curious, how do you feel now? Like, you know, you got 5 clutches under your belt. I mean, I'm pretty sure it feels amazing, but then also you got to establish these things and get them going and whatnot. I'm sure you have people on your bumper. So how do you feel?
It feels great and it sucks all at the same time. You know, it's like I know, like I'm busy with like you know, the reptile perch stuff every day, and then when I reach this point in the year, it's like, oh, now I have all these extra things that I need to do every day that I wasn't doing before.
And these are both like 2 separate jobs for you, right? Like,
yeah, basically.
Like, yeah, you have a 9 to 5 too. I think, don't you?
Well, I did, but now I'm pretty much doing this stuff full time now.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great.
Time.
Say it again, Alex.
I said that cuts out a lot of free time.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. 100%.
So is the reptile perch stuff, we hadn't really talked about that a ton, but how's that going with, you keep hearing about the reptile market in general being down. I'm just wondering how that's, has that affected the reptile perch business much, or
Yeah,
is that?
knock on wood, no. I haven't really seen any dip at all, even though the market crashed. But I think it really has more to do with what I'm providing products for. I think the
Sure.
arboreal stuff I don't think
Yeah.
experienced the same dip.
No,
Nah.
especially not Chondros.
Not at all.
Chondros
Right.
kept hot. Like if anything, they got hotter.
Right.
Everything,
Right.
all the arboreal stuff's hot. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
Even the Amazon tree boas, those are hot too.
Yeah. Oh man.
Alex, I like this guy. That was great. Yeah, they're great. But come on, Chondros is like, I think what ball pythons have done for like the reptile hobby. I think Chondros is like the arboreal ball python. I think like let's be real, you can't top a Chondro in the arboreal game right now. Like as far as what's out there,
Hard to beat.
it's hard to beat, man. Only because we are looking at these things from stage 1 to final stages of them breeding, and they don't like. Okay, everyone bitches about adult ball pythons basically lose value as they get older, which is kind of true. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of how the ball python games work, but not with the Chondros. Like it's almost the opposite, because you start, like I said, from something that you potentially think has what it takes to go the distance. But nowadays, if you purchase these Neos from the right people, you're almost guaranteed to get something insane now. You know what I mean? If you know how to pick your red Neos first and foremost.
Yeah.
How do you
Well, plus it's not a morph thing. It's
Right.
not like how many genes does this snake have? It's not. Your snakes aren't getting outdated every season is bad.
Yeah. And good. Alex.
Well, so Dave, how do you pick out your Neos?
Holdbacks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for the Maniquari stuff, like the Prada lineage and things like that, once I got a couple clutches under my belt, you can see, what to look for in terms of, the phenotype that you're hoping to hit when they finally go through that color change. There's like the tone of the red that the babies have. There's a specific tone that I'll look for, that pretty much all the babies that had this certain color really developed a really high amount of blue once they did change. So I look for that, and then I also, obviously, thick black borders around the dorsal triangles is a no-brainer. But then I also look for, if you look for the shading in the red that goes around the dorsal markings and also like the portholes on the side, you'll notice on a lot of babies that there will be like you'll have the base color in the background, and then around the markings, there's like a slightly different tone of the red, and the more of that's present, the better. Generally, that all goes blue as well, not just the black markings. So
Right.
that's the kind of stuff that I look for in the babies that I'm producing.
And have you ever let go of one that you really regret?
Oh yeah, several times now. I don't have a problem with it. I'm glad people are able to get some animals that I think look really nice, and they seem to be really happy with them. I definitely, out of my first clutch, I released animals, and I didn't wait to see what everything was going to turn into, and let a few go that I definitely wish I had held on to. But it's good advertising, as Bill says. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
okay. Now, what's the thing with some Neos that are patternless or like fire Neos to get? Like, what's the deal with that?
Well, that picture that you're showing right there, that's from the Wamena, and or actually, excuse me, no, it's a Maniquari Biak male that I have, and he was paired with a Biak, a Rue Biak. And that clutch in particular, the phenotypes are just all over the place. It's kind of what you would expect from a cross like that. And generally speaking, the ones that have a really limited amount of pattern, out of that clutch in particular, you know, they through the color change, you know, they're turning into some really nice looking animals, but they all are really. It just depends because you know, the animals look so different from each other in that clutch that I've got some that were basically just like a solid orange like that, and they seem to be turning into high yellow animals. And then I've got some that had really pronounced markings, and they just look entirely different. So that clutch in particular, I held on to every single one just because I had no idea what they were going to do. So yeah, I'm just continuing, you know, riding those out to see what happens, and then hopefully I'm gonna pair her up again and repeat that this upcoming season.
Now you have like 3 different shades here of neonates, right? But these are all holdbacks, I'm assuming. Other than the yellow.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, including yellow, because I think those are turning out to high yellow.
Are they all siblings, those 3?
No, the really dark one was from a different clutch, but the other 2 were from the same clutch.
Damn. Now, do you hold back any yellows, or will there be ever a yellow that you'd want to hold back? You could, you know, you can be honest.
Oh yeah, I hold them back too, no doubt.
What do you look for in a yellow neonate? Because I feel like obviously red ones are pretty. Like if you nerd out long enough, you could easily like start to tell the crazy red ones, but yellow ones are a little tricky. So how do you determine like, okay, this yellow right here is not leaving my collection?
Yeah, I think, you know, if it's a straight Maniquari clutch, I just look for really nice markings where like hopefully you get like a really nice complete dorsal stripe, you know, connecting with the yellow diamonds. That's kind of what I would look for in those. That clutch that you're looking at there, the yellow one, there's a really good chance a good portion of these animals are going to have high yellow. So I'm just holding on to those just because I want to see how they compare to the red ones in the same clutch.
Right.
Once they complete their color change, which they're still definitely actively going through right now.
And I'm just curious, like, how do you work a yellow in your breeding projects? Now, like if you have a yellow that you raise up, it being a male or female, is that more likely going to go to a red, or will it go to another yellow? Like, how would you work that?
Yeah, if I can, I'll introduce it, you know, to a red. So like with the Maniquari stuff that I'm working with, I have no problem pairing up a red and a yellow together, and you'll get a percentage of both in the offspring. You know, ideally, you know, I want to target red to red, but you know, I've got some adult yellow females and males as well that you know, they're definitely something that, you know, you want to try getting stuff from them, particularly Maniquaris, because they're few and far in between. So I have no problem doing that.
Have you found any of those like wild caught animals are red dominant, where they only produce reds?
So the Maniquari, I have not experienced that yet with the stuff that I purchased originally. The only one that I have in my collection right now that is red dominant is the Womena the Womena male that I have, and he was a sire to all these really dark, you know, burgundy animals. He was bred to another Arubiak. But yeah,
that's a wild, or that's an import. That's an imported Bushmaster snake. Okay,
it was. Yep.
Dang. Now, what was the first pairing you did locality? Like, I mean, when you first bred in 2019, did you do pure Maniquaris then? Was that the first stuff that you had going, or?
I'm trying to think. I think if it wasn't then, it was definitely within the next year or two that I did a pure Maniquari pairing.
Yeah, and how do you feel about Maniquari and Sarong being the same? I mean, do you consider that the you know, almost the same thing as well? Like when they name it like that?
I do. Yeah, I think from what I've seen, phenotypically, you know, they're not dramatically different. Obviously, they're the same species now, and I don't really feel there's a huge need to differentiate between, say, Maniquari and Sarong so much. I think generally the consensus is you see more yellow baby animals the further west you go, in that locality. But when you look at them, they're virtually indistinguishable from each other. So I don't, I wouldn't have a problem pairing a Maniquari to a sarong at all.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be a red sarong, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, but those are very hard to find. Yeah.
What would be another locality you would like to have in the mix of everything that you have now that's not currently in the mix?
I would like to have some really nice Aru. That's something that I may target sometime in the future.
Yeah, man. I don't know. You see some of these high white Arus out there, and it's like, and I don't want to
The
give.
best.
Yeah, I mean,
they're the best.
Shout out to Ryan Young, but also not shout out to Ryan Young, if you feel me, because this guy just fucking hates designers for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But also he has some of the best
Killer.
I've seen. But also he has monocories that look like Arus too. Like he has these monocories that have all these crazy white dots on them. And I remember he's been showing them to the group, and I'm like, is that an Aru? And he's like, no, these are monocory. So like, I guess Ryan has a good reason to be the way he is, because he has some fucking crazy ass shit that I guess he didn't make any mutts with. Whatever, dude. Fucking Ryan Young. But I don't know. I think having locality, and like I said, I'm just saying, having some sort of pure locality in the mix of your projects, I think is a good foundation to have, especially if you're just up and coming. Because it's kind of like starting with like a clean canvas, and you kind of base off what you want to go from there, versus already just breeding something into another designer, and it's just gonna be fucking a bunch of crazy paint on a canvas,
Yeah, I mean, all those designers came from locality originally, anyway. And
that's right.
I think it's something that if you're definitely gonna build a collection and you're gonna do this long term, it's a really good idea to incorporate at least a locality project. My opinion anyway, into your group. It just seems like the availability on these things isn't going to get better as time goes on, and I would hate to see some of these things disappear just because people didn't put the focus on them. It can happen.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious what your approach is with the babies that you are currently hatching out and whatnot. I know you're talking about you're going hard right now with the reptile perch stuff, but like, how are you approaching establishing these baby neonates? Are you doing things in stages, like parts? Are you just going all in at once? Like, how are you approaching the establishing and the feeding trials?
Yeah, thankfully right now, the clutches were spaced apart. So I've got one clutch that has already shed, and I just got the third round of meals into all of them. So that one's, pretty good to go. And then my second clutch is just now starting to shed. And then the third one, it's a little ways out. So things are spaced naturally because of that. And I'm hoping that these other clutches that haven't shed yet will be as easy as the first one, but time will tell. So I just, my routine is I go in every morning and clean everybody, all the babies, and I'm feeding them, once they get going, probably about every 5 days or so. And I just do.
How are you keeping the babies? Are they just on paper towels or water or what?
Yeah, I keep them in 6-quart Sterilite tubs. I don't have any substrate, no water or anything, just a deli cup for water in there and one of my perches. And then I spray them once a day. I'll spray them down. And I just keep them super simple. And the only reason why I do it that way is because, you know how they are. They crap almost daily. So I don't bother putting a substrate or anything in there just because I haul it off to the sink and hose it down when they do that.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. I don't know. Like Patrick Holmes is super anti-water substrate because he just thinks it's like ideally not the cleanest way to go about it. But I mean, if you're on top of just cleaning your waters every day, I mean, Marshall, you're looking at your stuff almost every day, and I'm sure you're.
I clean them. Yeah, sometimes twice a day, every morning and every night. We're like right now I've only got 4, so it's no big deal. But like when I've had 8 or 10. It is a pain in the ass compared to paper towels, but I feel like they're better hydrated. I I know that I've read Patrick's thoughts on it. Well, yeah, I mean, sometimes maybe they drink a little water that they've just shit in, you know? I mean, but I almost think that that might be help them build up some kind of a tolerance or immunity to something. Obviously I don't let them do it all the time. I clean it as soon as I see it, but I don't think it's going to kill them to, if that happens occasionally,
Right.
Yeah. How long do you keep them over water for?
Usually until they're a year old or so.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe not quite that long. As soon as they start having like solid shits, I'll switch them over and just do like a damp paper towel. Like my new my kind of new philosophy I've picked up over the last year or two is just keep the cage wet at the bottom, but have enough ventilation to where it, the sides never fog up. And just keep everything damp, but with heavy ventilation. So, I mean, I've got a box fan that blows directly into the face of my rack that I've got all my babies in, Amazon tree boas and chondros. So it's humid in the tub, but it's never humid enough where there's standing, like droplets on the ceiling or droplets on the actual tub.
Dude, Brian's being a bully in the live chats right now, man. He's just attacking me. He's attacking now my friend Marshall. Damn. No, but I don't know. Listen, one of the things that I've, once I have baby neonates that I produce, obviously that next step of fear is going to be a prolapse, because I went through the ringer one year with that. Have you ever had to battle any kind of prolapses in your experience so far, Dave?
Yeah, I usually get a few each year with the babies.
Wow. Okay, tell me more.
Yep. Yeah. I'll generally get, last year I think I had 2, maybe 3 babies that developed a prolapse. Never in the adults. The adults, I think it's, generally a lack of hydration and mobility that causes it. But the babies, I'm still trying to figure out, like everybody, what the actual root cause is there. Lately I've just been leaning towards, it seems like it's more related to what we give them for food than anything. Those red hot pinks, there's no fiber, and it seems to give them diarrhea. And I think it's probably a combination of that and maybe some type of like a neonate development thing where like the mesentery that holds the intestine in place isn't robust, and when you combine that with a really bad food item, that you're just setting up a scenario where some of them could prolapse. So generally what I try to do is get them off those red hot pinks onto something with a little bit of fur on it as quickly as possible.
And is your first approach with your neos, as far as giving its first meal, is chick down? Is it everything has chick down or no?
Yeah. Yep. I do chick down right out of the gate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alex.
You ever used a lizard?
I haven't yet. I've heard, on the podcast, people talking about it. It's their natural food item, so it makes complete sense. I think the only reason why it was never like the mainstream is just availability. And it's so easy to order a bag of pinks, but you can't really do that. You can't get a bag of geckos.
Give me a minute.
Yeah, it's coming.
I got 8 of these bastards that are crawled out of the egg now, and it's fucking great, to be honest.
Nice.
It's kind of sad because I am falling in love with them. They're fucking pretty cute.
Are you going to feed them to anything that'll eat mice or not?
Say that again?
Are you gonna feed the geckos off to anything that already is on mice or no?
I have Mark Hager's yellow neonate that refuses to have anything but a gecko. That's all it wants. And so I'm gonna just, I guess, experiment with this now. I mean, it's cool. I mean, why not?
Yeah. And
I have 11 gecko eggs yet to hatch. So
yeah, you're pumping them out.
They're coming out like
if an animal is all rodents, are you going to give it a gecko like you would give a quail to? No? Okay.
No, no. If it's on rodents, God bless. That's what I want. I just want to at least feed it something that I don't have to force down its throat or beat the shit out of. I don't think I understand that that's a technique, but if you have to beat the shit out of your neonate, there has to be another option, dude. Like, come on, let's like and try it. Trust me, I've tried beating the shit out of this neonate. It doesn't work. This thing gets shy and then it runs for the hills. Like, there's no. This thing's a pain in the fucking ass. Mark Hager definitely was right when he said this thing's it's a pain. And so I think it's already almost over a year or just about to hit a year, and it's eight geckos under my watch. Like I'm talking like set it and forget it. I have nothing, no energy is put into me getting it to eat this gecko. It eats it like a savage. Everything else, I have to literally, it's a whole like approach. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to confuse it. I'm trying to like mimic something else that it doesn't want. So why even fight it at this point? Now I got the stock. It's go time. You know what I mean? And I'm about to come up with some amazing crested gecko feeding videos here soon. Oh my God, I'm just kidding. I don't want to, you know, I had a couple people who like stopped fucking with me because they're like, are you really going to do this? And I'm like, dude, it's natural. Like, yeah, like they're like, why can't you do a house?
That's
gecko?
ridiculous.
Why's it got to be?
What difference does it make?
I was like, why does it matter? He's like, you know, but like these are making amazing pets, and this is what you're gonna do. And I'm just like, dude, I'm sorry. Listen, chondros over everything. I want if my chondro wants.
I mean, I try puppies if they would eat them. You know.
Damn, that's ruthless. But yeah, but that, I mean, for real though, I mean, you would be open to that, like if it was to the point where there are United States captain bred crested gecko feeders, you would be down to try that as far as a first meal goes, or would you just try that as like a backup if it doesn't want anything to do with a pinky? What would you do with that, Dave?
No, 100%. I would do that if they were as readily available as pinky mice. I would probably just give them gecko babies, or you know. That's what they do in the wild. They're eating lizards, baby lizards in the wild until they reach about a year or so old, and then they transition naturally to rodents. I wouldn't have any problem doing that. It's just availability. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
And like, you know, man, I can't tell you the feeling of sitting there for 45 minutes trying to get something to eat something, and then all of a sudden you toss something in there, and within 3 minutes it takes it strikes. Like I went from wondering, does this thing even strike at anything? Like does it know how to strike? Like, is it because I'm grabbing it by the back of the head and it's not even doing anything to me? And I'm like, maybe this thing just doesn't have what it takes. But I'm wrong, because I threw a gecko in there and it savagely, like it started
like it flipped a switch, huh?
Dude, yeah, it instantly, when I dropped that gecko in there, I went down and that snake started dropping its tail and like started like trying to get it to go over there. And every time this chondro goes after this gecko, it's when the gecko hops on the perch and goes right to its face. And so that's when I'm noticing it takes it every single time. The gecko has to come to it, but I don't know if it's the smell on top of the feel, because if you pick up a gecko, they almost like stick to you. Like they have like a certain kind of texture to how they feel. You know what I mean? So, but man, it was like night and day, man. I'll never forget. And I'm thinking like, I mean, if there's guys out there pulling their hair at night, like I was just doing, not knowing that it's this gecko is what it really wants. Like this is the choice meal for something that doesn't want nothing to do with anything. Like that has to click somewhere. You know what I mean? But the thing is like, how quickly do they establish and take off on a gecko? Like how many geckos can we, like, because we all stick to like a 5-day or a 7-day regiment when getting these things started. Can these things eat every 3 days? Can they eat like more often because it's a gecko? Like, because it doesn't seem like much that they're eating off a baby gecko, but this is a full prey item. This is there's skeletons. There's a lot more in this gecko than a day old pink. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So yeah, fuck it. We'll see what happens.
So you have a colony of crested geckos that you get a colony now?
Yeah. So I don't know when did this start? Like I forgot who. Oh, Kenny. That's who it was. Kenny Ritchie. Shout out to Kenny. That kid's a stud, man. But he was on here telling me how he has no headache feeders at all because he just tosses in a gecko.
Yeah.
And immediately my buddy Josh, shout out to Josh, one of my Patreon members, he's pretty local to me. And he's like, dude, he's like, if I have some leftover like baby geckos that I'll send you some just to see what happens. And I'm like, dude, thank you. That'd be great. And sure enough, he ships me one. And the day I get it was the day where I was trying to get it to eat and I got fucking nothing out of it. And I'll never forget, like, I just got done beating the shit out of it. And then I said, fuck it, I'm gonna try this gecko. And I threw that gecko in there after the beating and it ate it like a motherfucker. Like I'm talking, and I called Josh right away. I'm like, Josh, dude, it ate it. And he's like, yeah, man, like, because he has chondros and he's dealt with this as well too. He's a huge believer in geckos being the preferred prey item for these babies. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he sent me another one. Boom, did it again. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. And so he found me on Craigslist a lady selling a group of 1.3, 1 male and 3 females. I keeping them together and I get eggs like every other day now. Like it's just,
no kidding.
Yeah, they're fucking killing it.
Sweet.
Yeah. And also I have put 0, like not giving it, because like, you know, I got a lot of other stuff going on. So I put these eggs in the egg box and I literally put them on the very bottom level of my rack. They're in the ambient temperature of my room. And which I was thinking, okay, I don't think this is going to work. No, dude, they're all hatching out perfectly. It takes a couple months, but still one of the easiest things I've ever hatched out in my entire life is a crested gecko. I cannot believe it. Oh, you want to know something even crazier? You guys are gonna laugh at this. So I'm kind of pushing the envelope a little bit here with my son as he's growing. You know, he wants to crawl. He likes to move around, and so I try to look around, like, all right, is everything safe here? And so sure enough, I sat him down right here in my room, and because I thought like he can't grab anything, right? No, he actually grabbed the gecko eggs that I had on that bottom rack, and he started shaking them. And he was like this. And I was like, no. And so I thought, like, dude, now these eggs are fucked. And he shake the living shit out of both. He had both of them in his hands. I had to open them back up and re-put them. They're fine. God bless. I'm telling you.
Perfect food.
They're easy as shit. They're the answer. I'm telling you. I think what the main reason why everyone was like, no, ew, brother, ew, was because that they think they're wild caught. They think that,
parasites. Like
people thought, oh, you're getting them from a breeder in Florida. Those are all wild caught, which probably true. But if, in this case, they're not. These are United States captive born and bred, and I know what they're eating and all that other stuff. So I don't know, man. Like I said, I think I think we should do less force feeding and just more give it what this thing wants to eat. I mean, think about the amount of Neos that hit the freezer because they just wouldn't fucking eat a pinky. You know what I'm saying? Like something you would never see in the wild. So day by day. I know Alex Warren's on his way with the crested geckos as well. So
we got some.
Yeah. We just got to start thinking bigger, buddy. And once I get to that production level, I'll hook you up, David, for sure. I'll ship you some of my trap produced feeder crested geckos.
I'll definitely try it out.
Yeah.
So do you have to feed the geckos any bugs, or you give them just the crested gecko diet?
Well, right now I'm figuring that out because I got these babies that just came out of the egg, and they don't seem to be interested at all in the powder diet. So I have, and I think the crickets I have might be a little bit too big, so I got to go get the pinhead crickets or the pin crickets, which are like these tiny ass crickets, and I'm pretty sure that's what I need to get them started on. I got so many crested gecko breeder homies that I could just call and ask. I've just been busy, but I've been giving them right now the powder diet stuff. And it doesn't seem like they're really eating it, but I don't know. I mean, it's just they're alive. They're good, So I do know that they're going to need crickets for sure. So, but
when those things hatch, they're like pinky mouse size.
They're a little bit bigger.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit, but pinky size like is a short and stubby. These things are a little bit longer, like not too much longer, but I mean they are actually pretty tiny too. I would say almost probably equivalent, but they're just not as chunky. They're not chunky like a pinky. Pinky is just like a little blood piece of fat. These things are just they got bone on them. You know what I mean? There's like bone structure. They have like a full skull, and so a little bit more of a prey I feel like is in that gecko versus a and I got to tell you, man, these things hatch out where a little tiny ass neonate has no problem eating these, like for
Yeah.
sure. Like, you ever see sometimes I'll never forget when I first hatched out my very first chondro and I looked at a day one pinky and I was like, is it really going to, like, can this fit? And it almost looks like some of these pinkies are so fat that you wonder, like, how the fuck does it swallow this thing? And they do, don't get me wrong, but a gecko has to be 10 times easier. Like, I'm talking just slide right in type shit.
Yeah. Almost like they were built to eat them.
I'm telling you, man. Like, I mean, let's also think of the reality of an adult green tree python still eating an adult lizard. That has to be common too. Like, a lizard has to be a part of that diet forever with a chondro, like, because they get whatever they can get. But a lizard, they probably get a lot. They probably get a lot of lizards out there, you would think, more than birds.
Oh, for sure, more than birds. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know there's some sort of, I forget the type of rodent that's out there that could get pretty big, and they can get rodents, but like, I feel like a rodent's a lot smarter than a lizard. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I think they found that, they're definitely eating rodents as they're adults. It's nocturnal, and which most lizards aren't unless they're geckos, but all the field studies that they found predominantly are eating mice and rats.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's nothing out there in the wild that has a chick down coating and that just sits right there like, eat me. Like, come on. Like, what are the odds of a fucking baby chondro coming to buy a baby mouse litter? It's just like, oh, here we go. I got my first meal. Oh, it's very unlikely. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, not happening.
If not probably ever happen. Who knows? But and then Ryan, and I mean, actually, I won't even act like Ryan hasn't told me this a while back. I think when I had one of my stubborn chondros that I was trying to get established, he told me that he always has skink tails in his freezer or skinks available, and I think skinks has always been something that Ryan's used for his stubborn feeders and has always had success for the most part, from what he said.
Yeah, I tried with my first clutch. I actually got a hold of some baby skinks, and but they were frozen, and they didn't want anything to do with them. So I just assumed, they're keying in a lot on the movement and things like that. I would assume, but I didn't have very good luck with skinks.
Yeah, and
I've tried the scenting, the gecko and the skink scent, and I've never had luck with any of it, really.
Yeah.
But like, how do you like what's a way to scent something? Like, just rubbing it on the belly, or do you cut it open and put the guts on it?
No, I think the guy that does the Reptilinks, he'll sell you
drops.
It's like, the little sausages.
Oh, the links.
Yeah, I think so. The same guy, I can't remember his name, but I think he does. It's basically like you get like an eyedropper bottle, and it's got like a pureed frog or a pureed gecko, or like basically a whole prey item that's been made into liquid, just chopped up super fine.
But it's been processed, right? So it's not going to be the same thing as like an actual real, you know what I mean? It's going to have other stuff involved that's going to kind of like.
No, that's the problem. You got to keep it frozen. So he sends it to you frozen, like you're getting frozen rodents, and then you got to put it in the freezer.
Well,
keep it in the freezer.
What makes it even worse with this yellow neonate from Mark, and Mark, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it only eats live geckos. Like, I've tried to give it frozen thawed, wants nothing to do with it. And I don't know if it's the movement or whatever, but again, I'm not pushing the envelope. Whatever it wants, I'm going to give it at this point. If it wants it live, it's going to eat it live. But I got to tell you, I had no luck with the frozen thawed stuff, for sure. Zero. So
now that you've got a steady supply, I'd be interested to see how, if you could switch it over at some point or what.
That's the game plan. Like, I definitely my whole goal with this experiment is like, okay, how many geckos did it take for me to get it to switch over? Or does it ever switch over? Stay tuned. Guess we'll find out, right? And I hope that this is the only one I have to deal with like this, because I mean, for instance, if you want to think about establishing or just keeping a chondro only on geckos, you got to have a lot of geckos, I think. And regardless of what's happening now, I don't know if I could maintain a gecko feeding collection or product, for all these chondros that are just eating geckos. The whole game plan is to get them to rodents, but also I don't want to have to do that by giving them PTSD and force feeding shit down their throats. You know what I'm saying? I hate that. I don't like that at all. It's one of the most stressful things is force feeding a fucking chondro. Even though the rat tails are super easy, I know you had experience with that this year, Marshall. That was simple, wasn't it? It was like it can't come out once they're in.
Yeah, no, it was super easy. Way easier than trying to do a pinky.
Yeah, and we didn't ask you, David. What do you do with an assist feeder? Like, obviously we're talking about giving it geckos, but if that, for you, what have you been doing for a chondro that just doesn't want to eat anything you're offering it?
Yeah, so I don't mess around anymore. As soon as I start feeding trials, if it's acting like a runner, or if it's like one of the ones that's like really shy, you can't get them to strike at anything, I go to assist feeding immediately. So I just do the hind legs of mice, and I'll do mouse tails too. And it's super quick and easy, and I just do that until they decide that they're going to start eating pinkies. I don't sweat non-feeders at all anymore.
Right.
And pretty good luck getting them switched over. Good high percentage getting them of assist feeders eventually getting established.
I have, yeah, pretty much all of them will. Some of them just take a lot longer than others. I think I had one last year. It took me 7 months before I finally got one to start taking food on its own. But the assist feeding, I just find it's so quick and easy that I don't stress about it, and I don't bother wasting time beating them up anymore. The second that it seems like they're not going to be an aggressive striker, I just go right to assist feeding, and then usually within about a month or so after starting that, I get them to the point where they decide that they're going to switch on and eat on their own. By and large, it happens pretty quickly, but then every once in a while I'll get a straggler that just takes a really long time. But yeah, it's feeding trials and things like that. I used to really stress out about it when I started getting my first clutches, but now it's like it's a no-brainer. It's just how much time is it going to consume? That's all.
Yeah, it was very interesting on how it worked for you this year with the albino, huh, Marshall? Like, because it was like only one rat tail you gave it, or two?
You gave it 2. Yeah, I gave it 2.
But it turned the corner pretty quickly after that.
I mean, it seemed to. Yeah, I don't know if that was the catalyst that did it, or if there was, it would have just come around anyway. But I could definitely tell after 2 weeks of giving it the tails that it had a little more, little more energy to fight than it did, before that. And they were just so easy to get down. Like, a pinky, sometimes you're sitting there, you struggle getting trying to shove a whole pinky down a baby chondro's throat, and they're fighting you and trying to spit it out the whole time. And, it can't be, it's just, you would think that, it's physically taxing on them.
It's pretty nasty too. That smell, man, the inside of a pinky, just it sticks on you if you don't wash that shit off quick enough. It smells. I don't like it. And
the other thing that I do too is if I have one that I'm going to be assist feeding it for a while, I'll actually dip the end that's not going in the mouth. Originally, I'll dip it in some of the Repashy prepared powdered foods for like crested geckos and stuff. So I've tried different varieties of that just to add extra nutrition to the meal. And they don't seem to like the taste once it hits their mouth, but generally at that point, it's too late. They have to eat it anyway. So
it's like as an added supplement, like just to kind of get a little bit more, which those diet mixes have bugs in them.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. I mean, who was it that came on the show and said that these things have been known to eat roaches in the wild or something like that? Or somebody said, didn't we talk about that?
I've heard that.
Who was that?
I've heard that.
Who was on the show and talked about that? It was Richard Crowley, actually. It wasn't even a all in the Tree Tuesday episode. It was another episode I did with Rich Crowley, who's like a short-tail blood python breeder, but also has dabbled in chondros. He's been around for a while, but he also said that there was, studies or documentations of chondros eating bugs in the wild. You know?
Yeah, there have
Yeah,
been
I've
pictures
heard that too.
eating bugs.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. Well, listen, I got a wrap up question, then we'll get to Marshall and Alex's wrap up question. We didn't really touch too heavy on dieting, but obviously, I'm having a good guess here what you like to go with since your chondros are kept small, but you're primarily mice. You don't do any rats, or do you do rats as well?
No, mice.
Okay. Now, and that has been something you've done from day one, or did you like move over to mice over the last couple of years, or like I'm just kind of get the idea of why you've always had mice.
Yeah, I started out with mice. I think at that point in time, it was still kind of the consensus that, a rat diet might not be the best for them in captivity for prolapses and things. But I've, since then, I don't believe that to be the case at all. But I just have never had a need to switch. So I stay with mice just because that's what I've always done. But I don't think there's any reason why you can't do a rat diet too. It shouldn't be any different.
So on that note, when it comes to you picking things back up after they're fast, how are you hitting your females with mice? Like how are you making sure they get enough to be able to, build those follicles and get into ovulation and whatnot?
Yeah, I generally do smaller meals. So instead of like jumbo mice, I'll do large mice, but they're on the smaller side, and I'll typically, when I get started with the feed cycling, they're getting fed probably twice a week for a while. But I gauge it based on when was the last time they went to the bathroom and how chunky are they starting to look and things like that. But I hit them pretty heavy at the start, and I'll continue that up until the point when they usually stop feeding.
What's the average bowel movement for your adults that you're noticing for your females? Like how quickly are they shitting out like a jumbo mouse or whatever that you're feeding it?
Super infrequently. So my girls like to hold on for a really long time. It could be a month to a couple months before they go.
Yeah, and Marshall's been like that with you too. You have some females that just shit, a month, 2 months, couple months later or whatever as well, huh?
Yeah. So I had one that she had 5 or 6 meals without a bowel movement. So what I started doing is just taking her perch and setting the perch on the floor. Like every time I walk in the room, I just set the perch on the floor. And then she would climb up and get on the other one, and I'd come back and put it on the floor, and then just basically force her to move around. And that took about a day, and then she had a big shit.
Have any of you guys experienced like a neonate not shitting as much as the others, and for whatever reason it just doesn't shit a lot?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Interesting. Well, shit, right on. All right, who wants to go next? Marshall or Alex with the wrap-up question?
Go ahead, Marshall.
So talk about how you've used and I think we've talked about this privately, either via maybe instant message or I don't know, maybe it was in a Facebook thread, but you're using vermiculite to hatch the eggs on, which a lot of people don't do anymore. But what are you doing there? How are you mixing it up by feel, by weight? And have you noticed, have you always done it that way?
Yeah. So I originally started out with the suspended incubation method, but it didn't work very well with the way that I have my incubator set up because I have so much airflow in there that the eggs were actually starting to desiccate a little bit, even though they were directly above water in that bin. So I ended up switching them out of that and into a container with vermiculite, and I got really good results when I did that. So I've stuck with it since then. And the way I do it's really simple. I just use a Cambro food container. I think it's a half pan is what they call it. And I think the ones that I'm using are either 4 or 6 inches tall. I can't remember. And I get the clear lid that comes with them. And then I use a really chunky vermiculite. And what I do is I don't do a straight 1-to-1 by weight mix with water. I do just a slightly drier mix, so it's more like 85% water to 1 on the vermiculite, all by weight. And then I'll put the eggs in that, bury them maybe a quarter to a third up the height of the egg. And then my incubator, I just use the old school cooler baiter method, and the whole bottom of the cooler is water. It's a big water well, so the whole thing's super humid. And then I have my egg box ventilated the whole time. I usually have, it's like an 1/8 inch hole in one end that is open the entire incubation. Yeah. and
You have
it's pretty-
fans in the cooler, or just
I do.
or-
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And what are your temps reading? I'm sorry, David.
I shoot for 87 degrees, 87, 87.1, somewhere in that range.
Straight bake, or do you drop
Yep.
after? Okay. No
No,
drop.
this year I did straight bake. I didn't bother dropping.
And do you do that too, Marshall, or do you drop?
I don't drop.
Straight
Yeah,
through.
87. I set the I think I set my thermostat on 86, but on the top shelf of the incubator it's actually a little bit hotter. So 87.
Okay. And air holes with your boxes, David, after a certain while, do you let or no air holes at all?
No, I have an air hole the entire time.
The whole time.
Yep.
Okay. And no
Yeah,
air
he's
holes.
doing a little different though. He's running the incubator, like the main chamber, wet.
Yep.
And I'm not. Mine's dry. So, I would think with his setup, a little airflow would be, if you're exchanging humid air. But in mine, if I put the hole, especially with the eggs not being in vermiculite, just over water, they tend to dry out, which is what I experienced a little bit of just earlier this season.
I mean, your hatch rate's pretty good, huh, David? Like whatever egg makes it to the incubator goes the distance from what?
Yeah, I've had really good success using it. I really like vermiculite. I know it's old school, but it just works. And the eggs stay nice and plump, and I've had no issues.
I mean, I've always been a big pussy about like, oh my God, I don't want the egg to touch the perlite or whatever. But with these fucking gecko eggs, I stuffed these fuckers right in the perlite, and it worked perfect. Obviously you got to know the ratio of what works. You can't just dump water into the perlite. Like there has to be a good mixture, and maybe because, I don't know. I guess less is more when it comes to overthinking and just letting it do its thing. I know Ryan Young's always told me, like, just stick those fuckers in the substrate and watch what happens. They're going to be fine,
Yeah.
So, and I think it's cool, awesome to see one of the things I love the most is when someone posts a successful green tree python clutch hatching with these eggs that are basically submerged in the substrate. I'm just like, how do these fuckers do this? Like, just more importantly, like the balls that they have to do that, because you always see so many people who like put eggs in the incubator and then the eggs just go to shit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But that could be for other multiple reasons. You know what I mean? So yeah. All right, Alex, what you got?
Is there like a something new on the horizon with the reptile perch? Like, is there some kind of is there like a new perch coming out, or a new cage or something? What's going on with that?
Spill the beans.
It's a good question. No, I don't have anything like really new that I'm going to debut anytime soon. I've been plenty busy with all the stuff that I've already generated. But there's some, slight alterations that I'm making just based on feedback that I get from people, just to try and improve some of the stuff that I've already made. Like I've been talking with Garrick a lot, and he really likes that Tranquility base enclosure for his customers. And one of the things that he wanted was a simpler perch in there, where it's just a single one rod down the middle of the tub, just like people do with their clothes hangers and the coaxial cable holders that they use. But this will be a single perch with a freestand, so that you can remove the whole thing just like all the others with the baby on it if you need to. But he just likes that just because of the ease of being able to reach in for feeding trials by having just one single perch down the middle. And it makes it easier for his customers too, who are learning the technique of, getting their new baby to eat again. So it's just mainly things like that right now that I've been working on. But I'm always open to new ideas too when people throw them at me, and I'm generally tinkering a lot. But for the most part, my own collection, that's where a lot of this stuff came from. I'm pretty happy with the way things are, so I haven't done a lot of like new development stuff.
I love the current setup I have, Dave, but I mean, I can't help but to think, could maybe one perch not hurt? And only because like I have this gravid emerald, and I've gotten great advice from my mentors out there, Christopher Rice being one of them, who's suggesting some cross branches like to help her support her body. But if that's the case for an emerald, I mean, even some of these chondros could probably benefit from an extra perch. I just don't think you could go wrong with adding more perches. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. No, I have those branch extensions, and I found that when you add those, they definitely use them. I think it's great to be able to watch your animals with that classic, sleeping pose that they do. But if you add, things in there to break it up a little bit, they make good use of that. And, I would, recommend people to add, cross perching in addition to just the straight pipes that they have, because the animals definitely seem to like to mix it up quite a bit.
Oh.
Yeah, they do.
Now you know what my next order is going to be, Dave, just so you know.
Yeah, right?
Hey,
I'll send you some.
Dude, killer podcast, but more importantly, man, just killer year you're having so far, bro. Like, just keep up the great work, because it's inspiring. Like, just the slow growth, like it's, not that you have to do that, because everyone has different personalities, but when you're just kind of letting things go as they go without putting any pressure on it, it's a lot more fun that way. It seems like,
I think so. Yeah.
For people to be on top of everything that's happening, Instagram, you're the most active on, you would say, right? So Reptile Perch on Instagram, if anyone wants to follow your work or maybe reach out to you, would that be the best place?
Yeah, Instagram or Facebook, and then obviously directly on my website, you can reach me there too.
Right. So you can find all the information to the Reptile Perch in the description below. Amazing episode. I know this won't be the last time we'll have you on here. That's for sure, man. It's always a pleasure, Dave. But guys, it's a wrap. Give it up for David Brahms, the Reptile Perch, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, David. Have a good night, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Dave. Thanks, man.
See ya. Thanks, guys.
Another guy with success, just feeding mice to his chondros, making me think here. I don't know.
Yeah.
But all the clutches are smaller though, but that you got to think that's probably better for the animal as far as longevity goes. I don't know.
Yeah, you would think, seems like not a lot of people have big clutches anymore, you don't see
Eric, the House of Blue. I mean, he
killed it. That Instagram post he made yesterday or today with I don't know 18 or 19 babies. That's insane.
Dude's a machine. Garrick is a freaking machine, man. And I've had a couple buddies already go to his place and just tell me how beautiful all his animals are, and he's on the rat tip, so you have someone on the complete other end of the feeding spectrum doing his thing and having success. And he has females that are well in the age, like they're not like dying soon or anything like that. So, I don't know, man. I guess you just have options, just like in this world, right? I mean, you got people that eat like fucking goddamn Neanderthals and huge ass meals, and maybe live. I don't know, what's the age ratio of someone eating like shit? I guess.
Marshall, do you feed your chondros rats?
Yes, he's rat all the way.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I try to do mice for the most part, but yeah, I'm not scared to give them rats.
Yeah, I give all my adults rats.
Yeah, I don't know why. Obviously, this is a mental thing because my snakes don't talk to me, but I feel like my chondros just rather have a rat. But that's like kind of like telling me like I rather have McDonald's versus my wife's healthy food that she fucking makes me. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it like that. I just feel like, okay, just because something tastes better, is it better for you? Right? I don't know.
Well, I think it's also like, because like how many large rats does it take to give a chondro that would equal a small rat? Or large mice would equal a small rat. You have to give it like 2 or 3 or something like that.
2 or 3, yeah.
But we're
I'd
talking
say 2 or 3.
We're
You have
talking
to-
different proteins and like fatty content, like also like we're talking it's a different type of meat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like I said, like what David said in his time of getting a female ready to breed when it comes to feeding, he's feeding twice a week, he said.
Right.
We don't ever do that when it comes to rats. We don't ever, never. Like we
Nah, yeah, you wouldn't want to do that. I don't think.
No, not at all. But with mice, you have to do that. So it's almost in a sense he is making up for it by feeding it that extra mice, which probably what equals out, you would say, in a sense, right? Because right. So I rather
As far as like by weight, gram for gram, But like you're saying, it's different. It's different. It's like turkey versus beef. Well, whatever.
I love beef. Hey, listen, good episode. I appreciate it. Alex Warren coming in clutch. I appreciate you always, and also Marshall Mendez. Right now with you, Alex, it's what's going on with your chondros? I know you had one girl that was about to ovulate or look like it, or what's going on with that?
Yep, that's why I'm in the living room again, because she should be laying any day now. In fact, I'm about to go check on her.
Holy shit! When was her shed?
Nice.
When was her shed?
Yeah, her pre-lay shed.
I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago. Last time I did the podcast,
shit,
she was shedding.
Okay.
So her last time she laid her clutch 16 days after her shed. So
okay. You're about there. You're about
right in that area.
Any day. So probably tomorrow morning I'll have a story, Instagram story of Alex Warren's 16 egg clutch. I'm calling 16 eggs. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Well, if you don't hear anything,
Be nice.
What happened?
If there isn't any story, we all know what just happened.
Yeah, or it went to shit. No, if it goes to shit, I'm not talking to anybody. So.
Oh my god, yeah. Listen, I'm rooting for you. And Marshall, good to hear the update on the albino baby and the rest of the siblings doing great. All amazing stuff. So please go follow Marshall Mendez, Red Mountain Herbs, my dog, and also Alex Warren, Amazing Arboreals. It's a wrap. Give it up for these two, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night, boys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Peace. Later, Alex. Later, guys. Appreciate you guys. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tapping in. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Shout out to all the Amazon tree boa guys. I love you guys. I was just messing around. Amazon tree boas are hot. All right. I said it. They're on the up and up. Just go look what Rory talked about and the homie Randy P. All right. Shout out to all the Amazon tree boas. I was just trolling people in the chats. But Ryan Young, shout out to Ryan Young. Hey, appreciate this entire episode. You guys are awesome. I'll catch you guys here tomorrow for Cush's Corner. Stephen Cush coming in hot. And then Thursday night, got Adam Wickens, cancel culture survivor, fellow survivor of mine. It's going to be great. Be ready, coming in hot. Appreciate all the love and support again in the chats. You guys are amazing. Join the Trap Talk Patreon. Coolest Patreon family in the game. I'll catch you guys here tomorrow night. And I'm out.